Hello, my name is Brenda Price from AARP Michigan. Welcome to our annual Black History Month program. Thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting program with great information for you. I'd like to give you a little background on AARP's annual Black History Month programs. They're held across the country. States and our national office conduct Black History Month activities both in person and virtually. And you're here with us virtually today, coming from Michigan, because our weather can be a little unpredictable to do things in person in January. So we are glad that you can join us and that you are joining us from so many places across the country. For those of you who have just joined, please post your location in the chat. And again, I am Brenda. I am the Associate State Director for Outreach in Southeast Michigan. And this is a program that I like to do every year. AARP's theme this year is Health Matters, Mind, Body, and Soul. The 2026 Black History Month program campaign that we are conducting is in celebration of 100 years of celebrating Black history. Carter G. Woodson started Black History 100 years ago as Negro History Week as a way for Black people to enjoy and celebrate our achievements and our successes. So marking this historic milestone is not only honoring the past, but also supporting the people who continue to contribute to Black history and culture today. That's you, that's me, that's all of us. By prioritizing our health at this point in our life, particularly if you're age 50 plus, you're looking at your health matters. And how does that strengthen you to keep you going to do the things that you like to do in community, with your family, in your social networks, etc. So our campaign, our Black History Month campaign this year is dedicated to a healthier future for us all. We are putting on presentations and activities to talk about practical tools and trusted information that will help the community build itself to be stronger, help you to be more sustainable, have more sustainable wellness habits. So we hope you enjoy our programming today. You will hear things that you have heard, maybe your doctor has shared, maybe a family member has shared, but we have a wonderful expert who is going to help us better understand the 3 tips for prioritizing a healthy life. So I want you to join me in welcoming our guest speaker today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Brenda. I appreciate it.
Hello, Michelle. We are just so glad to have you because, your background, your expertise, the information that you're going to provide is very exciting. It is an opportunity for us to laser focus on some very specific tips. So we appreciate having you. But before you get started, audience, I want to share with you some of Michelle's background. She is a registered dietitian with a master's degree from Eastern Michigan University and an undergraduate degree from Kent State in applied communications. So she knows communications, she knows health, she knows marketing, and she is a licensed dietitian. So with that, her career has covered quite a span. She has worked in hospital services, managed healthcare systems hospitals. She does consulting for a major healthcare network in the state of Michigan. She works with veterans. She does exercise. She had her own exercise company at one point in time. And that helped her to realize that there are all of these components to a healthy life. So she narrowed in and being very specific about her role and being able to share specific information from a dietitian standpoint, from a nutritionist standpoint. So that is what I think you're going to find very helpful about what she is going to present today. Now, this is a participatory event. She's going to share some stuff and you're going to start buzzing and you want to ask a question. So just place your questions in the comment section and we are going to get to the question and answer session. Just type it in and we have a wonderful, the most wonderful of all of the country. I think we have the best volunteer. She serves the country, but she's from Michigan, and she is going to monitor your comments in the chat. So if you might get a response from M.K. Clark, AARP volunteer. That's Dr. Mary Clark. So she's going to be monitoring those. If there's some questions that she can answer or direct you someplace, she will. So remember, put your questions in the chat because this is a participatory process that we want you to engage in. So, uh, Michelle, is there anything else that I missed from my introduction of you that you might want to touch on right here?
No, you did an excellent job. I actually was wondering who you were talking about.
Talking about you, talking about you. You are one of the people in Black history that we want to stay healthy and that is keeping us healthy and is going to keep us on our way. So today we're going to talk about pairing, portion, and timing.
Mhm.
Those are the three things that you are going to narrow in on. So folks at home, if you want to take some snapshots of the screen, you can if you need that. If not, at the end of the program, you are going to get some links that will share with you this entire presentation. So don't worry about, remembering anything. You have a couple of options. Take a picture, wait for the link. Let's get started.
Absolutely.
Okay. So talk to us right now about dietitian versus nutritionist.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the things that's really critical in just understanding when we're talking about our health care and health literacy is that there's a dietitian and there's nutritionists. And so when we talk about nutritionists, Brenda, you could be a nutritionist. All of us that are in the program right now can be nutritionists if you have some sort of information, if you read some things. And so that's good and that's of value. However, a dietitian is someone that has specifically went to school to study food and nutrition. They have to have a master's degree. And then there is a board certified exam that you have to pass in order to get these credentials, these important letters behind your name in order to come and serve the public, because we need to look at labs. We need to understand conditions. How your body actually digests food is very important based on your condition, your environment, and how it can impact you for long term.
Well, that's a wonderful explanation, one that I was not thoroughly aware of. And I'm sure that will help us as we move along the way. And that definitely will help me when I have conversations with my doctor. I really appreciate that. And
You're welcome.
going to the conversations that we have from our doctors, some of us, our doctors will tell us things. So, they tell us about sugar. They tell us about, the right foods or grains and things to eat or not to eat. They tell us about alcohol. And, there's one piece of your presentation that talks about the doctor says that my sugar is too high.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I'm sure many of us have heard, and we feel like scrunching up our faces and saying, well, what do you mean? Is that wine? Is that alcohol? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. So can you give us a little bit about, when we hear that from the doctor?
Absolutely. It's important that, telling somebody what to do is different from telling them how to do it. The doctors tell you what to do, but the dietitian comes in and tells you how to implement these things. Although they have good intentions, what they're saying is not connecting to our everyday life in general. They're not really aware and understanding what you have to take care of in terms of your family, your work, your schedule. And so really understanding that when we hear these things from the doctor, as you all will see the slide now, this is what we're thinking. Exactly. You scrunch up your nose, you roll your eyes. What do they mean? Watch my food. Yeah, I am trying to eat healthy. And obviously some of us are. We are absolutely trying, but we just don't really know exactly what things and how to implement them. And so I thought this was a great representation to what the doctors say, but what we really hear and how we feel about it.
Well, I can tell you, I am poo. That's me all the time. And it's not about the salad that I had last week. It's about the salad that I had yesterday. I'm looking
Mhm.
for the results.
Yes.
So this is perfect. I'm sure many of us in our audience have probably had this same experience with one of these examples, and
Mhm.
it is just so cute because it really does represent uh, me. This one does in particular.
Yeah, so
So,
many of us, right? We do the things and we think, okay, well, where are the results? Where are the results? They're not
mhm,
coming. And so
mhm.
sometimes it's not that we're not doing the right thing, it's that we're not implementing it in the right way. And that's what this presentation is about, telling you those three key things where you actually can see results.
Okay, all right, and that again is what? What are those three key things?
Portion, pairing, and timing.
Okay, portion pairing and timing.
Mhm.
So again, these are just some other examples of things that might be reflective of your life. The doctor told me to watch what I'm eating. I mean, I think that's just absolutely comical. And when the doctor tells me to give the alcohol a rest, uh,
Mhm.
I will say that I did give the alcohol a rest, and I drank wine. I said, well, I'll drink wine. And that impacted my sugar levels, and I was not a wine drinker. And my doctor at the time told me that he was seeing so many Black women coming in
Mhm.
that had started to drink wine. He said, you started to drink wine when this show came on television. And with Kerry Washington. And I
Mhm.
remember that was, it made it look nice and relaxing and fun. So
Mhm.
some of the things that may look like fun may impact our health and our calorie intake for sure.
Absolutely. Brenda, this is where my communication and marketing degree also come into play because you're right. Some of the
Mhm,
things that we see in media, on social media, Instagram, and even like you said, in the movies or on television, are
mhm,
not always giving us the right information or the whole
mhm,
story. And so,
mhm,
as a dietitian, I come in with my evidence based knowledge of what actually will be
mhm.
successful for people in the long term.
Now, tell us a little bit about this slide. Telling someone what to do is different than telling someone how to do it.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think it's important to know that sometimes if somebody tells you what to do, you may be able to implement that for a short time. But for long term sustainable weight loss, you have to know how to do it. And you have to know how to do it in your lifestyle, not what your friend does, not what your doctor does, not what your, person down the street does. You have to know how you can implement it in your life, small changes that can be sustainable.
Okay, all right. So these small changes
Mhm,
apply to a lot of things in addition to weight,
mhm.
like hypertension.
Correct.
Mhm,
Hypertension. You talked about your blood sugar. So,
mhm,
anyone that has insulin insensitivity, anytime you're looking at your blood sugars, that you're insulin resistant, meaning that the glucose does not get into your cell; it kind of stays in your blood. We
mhm,
look at different cardiovascular function and diseases, kidney, our liver,
mhm.
those type of things as well.
Okay, and with that, the picture on the screen shows, these are all the good things on your left that you should be eating, but on the right, it's this is what your plate should look like. You don't have to eat all of that, right?
Correct. So this
Mhm,
kind of comes into the first one when we start to talk about those three key portion, pairing, and timing.
mhm,
So with our portion, yeah, one of the things is we look at my plate. That is a type of portioning.
mhm,
And as we can see, split up with our vegetables, our lean meats, and our starches. But that doesn't mean that it only has to be healthy food on there. Yes, we're showing some
mhm,
healthy foods, but
mhm,
even in practical terms, if I have something that may not be considered as healthy, if
mhm.
my portion of it is smaller, I'm still going to be able to reduce my caloric intake and allow my body to metabolize it a lot better.
Okay, all right. So, and there are some very specific diets that you're going to share with us.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
So the three that are key, and the one that I'm sure you all have heard is a buzz of everything, it's all encompassing, is going to be that Mediterranean diet, our DASH diet, and that covers when we're talking about anybody that has cardiovascular dysfunction or dysregularity. So we would be talking about if you have hypertension, or or the doctor or provider has told you that you have high blood pressure, not sugar, that's different. High blood pressure, we would look at the DASH diet, and then the low carbohydrate diet. And so that is targeting people to try to lower their blood sugars.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about that Mediterranean diet.
Sure, let's dive into it. So you'll see some familiarities with some of this, but the Mediterranean diet is really meant to focus on a couple of key things. The leafy greens, those nuts and seeds. So we're talking about omega-3s. Those things are going to be heart healthy and protective. So with our Mediterranean diet, we really try to focus on more lean meats, but you may also hear a word called plant forward or plant focused. That doesn't mean that you're turning into a vegetarian. By all means, if you'd like to, you can. But I think that sometimes it may get a bad rap or skew because people think that it's all plant-based. It's plant forward. So we do try to focus on those more, but you can have your lean meats and vegetables. And then we also, within that all encompassing, is that they also focus in the Mediterranean diet about eating with people and making it social. That also is a part of better metabolization. When you are in a social environment, your body reacts differently. So it can also help to digest your food. And then the physical activity, that also helps to your digestive properties as well. Being active and moving around allows for you to utilize that fuel that you ate, and then also to make sure that you are utilizing it in a way that's going to be beneficial for you, for your bones, for your muscles. We talk about stability, balance, function. All of those things are important as well.
Wow, that's a lot. And you made a very good point about eating leafy vegetables. You don't have to become a vegetarian. Yeah, I was a vegetarian for about 20 years. And then I went back to eating bird and fish because I come from a camping and fishing family and I miss fish and seafood.
Yes. And it has good properties, good health properties.
Exactly. My doctor is forever telling me I don't get enough protein. So it really does, fill some gaps for me. But those 20 years helps me to lean into the leafy vegetables and to eat more of those than I do chicken, particularly, and fish. But that's a very good point. The Mediterranean diet, it fills a lot of gaps for me. So we
ask people to start small. You also want to start small. If you are someone that usually has a more meat-based eating pattern, then start with one day. And maybe if it's not the whole day, maybe it's just a meal and you start to scale back. So instead of using 30 or 40% meat, then you scale back to only using 20% meat and then slowly omit that out of your food.
Yes. Well, the DASH diet, give us some insight on that.
Absolutely. All right. So our DASH diet moves into anyone that we're talking about that may have some cardiovascular issues. And so we really want to look at the sodium content in things. And so with our DASH diet, what we do is we do focus on our grains. We also focus on our leafy vegetables because those are going to be reduced down in sodium. But then we also want to bump up our fiber. And so a lot of people are not getting enough fiber in their diet. If you are finding that you have increased cravings or if you always feel hungry, you probably need to look at your fiber intake. And so we look at bumping up those legumes and those nuts and seeds because those are very helpful in increasing your fiber intake. And then there's some vegetables too and fruits that have high fiber. But for this one, we really try to make sure that you're somewhere between 15 to 18,000 milligrams, of sodium per day. So it is reduced down. We have to look at things that are packaged and processed because even if you don't use salt on your food and shake it on there, it still will be coming in from other sources.
Okay. That's a lot. In a nutshell, slide DASH versus Mediterranean.
Exactly. I really like this slide because it does help to break down the two side by side. And so if you are someone that's just trying to look to improve your overall health, you are going to lean more towards the Mediterranean diet. It allows more flexibility. Also, it allows for a little wine in there. There is a specific type, though. We want to move more towards that red wine and not white wine. It's going to have the resveratrol in it. It's going to be lower in the sugar content. But if you are someone that has been to the doctor and they have repeatedly said that your blood pressure is high, or you've been diagnosed with hypertension, or you've had any type of other cardiovascular diseases or functions, or it runs in your family, you may want to look at that DASH diet. It's something that the doctor and the dietitian really try to stress to patients, because it will help you to reduce your intake of sodium, which is going to allow for your heart to pump better. And so that sodium potassium pump is really important when we're talking about our heart being able to pump that blood to all extremities. If the blood is very thick and it's trying to get to, our fingers, our toes, our brain, cognitive ability, then that's troubling. And so we want to reduce that sodium out of there and let that blood flow a little bit better.
Okay. All right. We're going to take some questions, Michelle. We have a few questions regarding some very specific things. Elaine Hudson asked the question, what number is too high for my sugar?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you so much, Elaine. So if you are someone that is insulin resistant or looking at sugars, there's two different types of tests that we do. So there is a glucose, which is a fasting test. So this means that you could clean up your diet, you could drink a lot of water, and you may have a good number when you go into the doctor when they have labs, because that's just your glucose fasted. And so that's only going to tell you what your blood sugars have done maybe over the course of 24 hours. The key is the A1C. So if you've seen or heard of an A1C, that is a percentage. That number is important because what happens is it takes the red blood cells, which only last about 30 to 60 days, 90 at the most. And what they do is they see how much sugar has been accumulating on each one of those red blood cells. And so you can't fake this test out. So whatever you've done 3 months ago and you've been consistently doing, it's going to show up on this test. And so the A1C is important for anybody who is looking into a pre-diabetes range. We need you to be under 6%, so 6.0. Usually people start at that 5.5 up until 6. After 6.0, then we have a diagnosis of diabetes. So you really would like to keep your A1C around that 5.2, under 5.5. And if you are looking at a glucose number, you probably want it to be under 100 and 120, 150 for a fasting glucose.
Elaine, I hope that was helpful information for you and others. It was for me. The next two questions are coming from Annie Holt from Detroit, and Eric Jensen will follow. Annie Holt would like to know which fruits are healthier for us as it relates to sugar content. This is a good question for me too.
Wonderful. Great question. Thank you for that question, Annie. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for fruits that are going to be darker. They usually have a lower sugar content. So your berries, your blueberries, your strawberries, your raspberries, those are going to be lower. Usually things that are a little bit sweeter, although they taste good. That's why we got to practice that portioning or pairing. Those are going to be higher in sugar content. And so if you're talking about your pineapples, your even bananas can be high, or oranges, things that are sweet. So if it's a little bit more tart and it's darker, you're probably going to be better off. So cherries, blueberries, pears are actually a good one. It's not that high in carbohydrates, but it also has good fiber intake.
That's good to know because I do take in a lot of fruit. Okay. And I'm sure a lot of people do. Next question is from Eric Jensen. Please specify best veggies and fruits for fiber.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Yeah, I was just getting into that. So a lot of your vegetables are going to have good fiber. Fruits are the ones that you kind of have to worry about in terms of your sugar and then your fiber intake. You kind of have to balance out, with preferability. But any of your what we call cruciferous fruits, so vegetables, so your broccolis are going to be good. Your spinach, your kale is going to be good. You can also move into things like your prunes are going to be good. Those are going to have some. Your pears are going to be good. Most of all of your fruits and vegetables are going to have fiber. Just the higher content ones are probably going to move more into your vegetables and a few of them for your fruits.
Okay. If you've got more questions, please put them in the chat. And Michelle, I have a question. When we talk about fiber and fruit, does it matter if it's cooked or raw? Is the content of the fiber the same?
That is an excellent question. You're going to get a little bit more fiber when you have it raw. Obviously, it's in its natural component, but there actually are some that you can get a little bit more fiber if it's cooked, like our carrots. Carrots actually are one that is going to be a little bit better.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know. That's really good to know. Thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
are going to go back and look at some more very important information. So you got feedback on the Mediterranean or the DASH diet. We've talked about sugar, what's too much, what's too low, what your sugar rating should be, or as she was very more specific about what those numbers should look like. But salt is also a factor in our diets. And I, for one, am not a big salt user. And it's a miracle because my mother was a big salt user that I did not adapt to that. So talk to us about high salt foods and what does that do? Does my body really need it? Because sometimes our body craves salt. At least that's my excuse for getting a bag of potato chips.
Yes. Now we do need a certain amount, but it actually is very, very low. So we need enough for our body to function. And then what usually happens is that we take it in through some of our foods, and some foods, obviously, as we can see on here, have a little bit higher sodium content. And really that's because most of our processed and packaging, we need to put that in there as a preservative to help it stay shelf stable. And so when we look at some of the foods that I know taste healthy, taste good, they also can be put in a category of high sodium where they're not as healthy for us and for our heart health in particular. So some of the things that are going to be in that category is going to be our soups. A lot of the canned soups can be sometimes sandwiches because of the lunch meat. Although we think, oh, I'm getting meat, I'm getting a deli meat, it still is processed. Some of our packaged like sausages or bacons, things like that will also increase. And then a sneaky way that the sodium creeps in is our condiments. What we're dipping or what we're drizzling on top of some of our foods can quickly add up.
That's interesting. I used to work with a guy and people would tease him because he absolutely used no condiments. For if we were out for lunch or dinner, his salad was a wedge of lettuce.
Yeah.
And this was years ago. And he said, it's going to put years on my life. And he was able to do that. That's something to really pay attention to. And I try to make my own salad dressings now because I think it might be just a little healthier. No salt, etc., and less oil in them. So that's a practice. And salad dressings are easy to make. If you just pull up some recipes, and if you have a Echo box or a Google box in your kitchen, you can just ask for the recipe to come up on your screen if you want a salad dressing or any other kind of recipe.
Absolutely. And I don't want to discount too the fact of hydration in all of this. And so when we're talking about sodium and sugars, blood sugar and blood pressure, hydration is key. And so having a good water intake or non-calorie, non-sugary drink is important because both of those will cause your blood to be thick. And so if you want to dilute something down, then you add some water, dilute it down. And so consuming enough water can also help you to flush out some of that sodium and some of the blood sugars as well. So it's also important.
Okay. In this slide, there's some examples of glucose enters your blood system.
Mhm.
Talk to us a little bit more about this.
Absolutely. So as we were talking before, and I believe as Annie asked a good question about, what are the things that are going to cause my sugar to be too high? What is
Mhm.
too high? So we look here and we see this banana has about 17 grams of carbohydrates. Not a lot. Usually a half a banana is about 15 grams. And so it depends on how big your banana is. Sometimes they're pretty big, but at just a medium size, your body can absorb that and metabolize it in a sufficient, efficient
Mhm.
manner. But when we bring in something that maybe we have toast or maybe we have waffles or pancakes, that is an increase of the number of carbohydrates in one sitting at one time, which means our body says, whew, this is a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to do all this work. So what do? I'm going to start hiding it. And then it starts to stash some of that because it
Mhm.
can't process and do all of that work. And so keeping your carbohydrates and a specific range, and that's really customized based on your condition and how far along you are, what your A1C is. But usually I tell people around that 40 to 45 grams or less is going to be better for your body to process and metabolize that food. So you can see how much glucose is in that bloodstream. So that's very
Mhm.
thick. I got to push that along. And as I push that along, that sugar crystals cut through some of the arteries and veins because as we know sugar crystals they crystallize and so that's very sharp and that's where we get the damage over time from high
Mhm.
blood sugars.
Well, I know some of you are sitting here saying, all of this is such wonderful information, but I still crave things. I still crave White Castle. I still crave pizza.
Mhm.
So, what's the middle ground?
Exactly. The middle ground is exactly these three rules that I'm going to tell you. If you're going to have that White Castle, you got to focus on how many White Castle I'm going to have, right? So that's your portion. We got to focus on the timing. If I'm going to have that White Castle, is it late at night? Is it 9 o'clock where I'm going to go to
Mhm.
sleep and just allow it to not be able to metabolize because my insulin levels are down? Or am I going to get something with it that's going to help to metabolize that better or slower absorption in my body so that I can feel better, have better health for long term?
Well, that's wonderful. So you're basically just asking us to think before we eat.
Ah, I love that. Think before you eat. Yes. And it's all part of what they call mindful eating, just being intentional about your decision. Like I said, one of those three things has to happen at every single setting. Every time you are coming into contact with food, it's got to be portion, pairing, or timing. You don't have to do all three. You don't have to do two, but you have to do one of those at every single point throughout your day when you're eating.
Okay. I'm going to keep that. What did you say? Mindful eating?
Mindful eating, right? That is just intentional looking at your food. Is this something that is going to give me nutritional value? But it's not just about nutritional value, it's also about connection and enjoyment. During the holidays, we're going to have those things and we like them. But how can I have them where later on I don't feel regret? I don't feel bad about my choices because that leads to engaging in more behaviors like that, which is a
Mhm.
slippery slope.
So mindful eating also applies to all of it, pairing our food.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. Yep. When you're mindful about what you eat, if you're eating a carbohydrate just by itself,
Mhm.
that quickly gets sucked up into your blood. Again, the more carbohydrates in our blood we saw on that last slide, the thicker it is, the harder it is to move, which means I'm fatigued, I'm tired, I have inflammation, my cortisol
Mhm.
level is up, I'm gaining weight. But if I take that same carbohydrate and pair it with something that does not require insulin, that's going to slow
Mhm.
down that spike, like a protein or a healthy fat, and we pair it together, or what I like to call food combining, then it's going to come into my system a lot slower. My
Mhm.
digestion is going to be better. And overall, I'm going to feel better as well.
Okay. All of that makes sense. It really does. It really does. I'm going to put it in practice this evening.
Love it. Yeah, good. And here are some really tips. I know people are visual, so we need to see
Mhm.
this. And this is intentionally why I set up this slide. We get our protein right in the middle because protein is the only macronutrients that gets digested in the stomach. This is very important because when I have a carbohydrate, the digestion starts in the mouth. There's an enzyme, amylase, that starts to boop, 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 break that down already. And now you got that nice taste in your mouth. It was all good. And before it gets down to your stomach, you're looking for more. We're grabbing another chip or we're grabbing a piece of cake or something sweet to just kind of
Mhm.
continue that craving. But protein doesn't do that. Protein gets into the stomach. That's where it starts to digest, where it hits these receptors, sending a signal to the brain. We have food. We can now stop, slow down. But that signal takes 20 minutes.
Okay.
So pairing it with something is crucial and important. Not having your carbohydrates by themselves, but
Mhm.
pairing them with something that's going to help to your metabolism.
Okay. And you have healthy fats here.
Yeah, absolutely. So healthy fats, again, fats get a bad rap. This is what I hear all the time. Michelle, I've been eating salads. I've been eating really good or really clean.
Mhm.
And I'm just tired of it, right? We get tired of eating healthy. And I tell people, well, you're not incorporating enough healthy fats. Fats actually help to keep us satisfied. The right types, yes, but it's also critical for our body. Our hormones run on fat. You
Mhm.
have to have enough fat in our cells. There's a biolayer or a biolayer of lipids that also you need that fluidity around in your body. So
Mhm.
healthy fats like avocados, put an avocado on your salad, put some oils on your salad. Maybe you do some nuts. If you're finding that you're hungry and especially snacking at the end of the night
Mhm.
after the meal because you need a little sweet something, I recommend looking at your dinner and seeing if you can incorporate a healthy fat in the
Mhm.
dinner to try to help you to feel more satisfied so that you can save off those cravings.
And when I add those healthy fats to a salad, like
Mhm,
avocado, eggs, mushrooms, those
mhm.
things, I'm full. My
Yeah.
belly is full. My
Mhm.
stomach is expanded.
Yeah.
And I know that is important too. And you have a visual for us that lets us see the
Mhm,
difference in what goes into your belly. And
mhm.
that is impactful.
Absolutely. If you just look at this, 400 calories, that's a good amount. That's a lot. But if we are nibbling on some things that maybe don't fill us up, then we're left wanting more, wanting more, wanting more. So 400 calories definitely goes a long way when we're talking about our fruits and vegetables, even our beans and grains. So again, that's that fiber that we talk about. So those two categories just on the left hand when I talk about increasing fiber. And by the way, for fiber, if you're out there and you do want to know that usually somewhere between 25 and 28 grams for women and 30 to 35 for men. So increasing your fiber intake not only is heart healthy, but also is going to help to keep you satisfied longer, where you're not going to be um, in engaging in having more calories. And so we see our proteins are going to be, a good sustainable amount, but still only half of the stomach. And then we get into our cheeses and our oils as well.
I think that is wonderful. That visual is really, really helpful to me. And then you have another tool for us to use our hand to
Yes,
help us.
absolutely. So this is where we get into that portioning. So remember, this is one of our key three things. So if you are looking at your plate, there's different ways to portion your plate. So yes, you can use your hand method, which means, okay, if I'm going to have a piece of meat, a lean piece of meat, I'm using my palm, just my palm, not all my fingers. We know sometimes when we go to the restaurant, we get a nice piece of meat and it's our whole hand. Just your palm is about 3 ounces, where our body is really set up. It's not that our body can't process all of the protein, it's that it doesn't have anything to do with it. It
Mhm.
doesn't really need all of that. And so usually around that yeah, 3 to 5, I would say, ounces of meat is sufficient. And then our plate method. So you can see with our plate, half of the plate is filled with veggies, and then a quarter of it is with our lean meats, and a quarter of it is with our starch. So if you look at your plate and you see that the mashed potatoes or the macaroni and cheese is taking up more of that plate,
Yeah.
that's an opportunity right there to work on portioning and just scaling that back. I tell people take another step back, and instead of using a big utensil, just use a smaller utensil to actually put things on our plate. Because I don't know about you, but I definitely am from the school of if you put it on your plate, you eat it. You don't waste money and you don't waste food. So save yourself from feeling some of that regret and some of that things that are ingrained by just making your plate smaller so that you can eat what's on your plate, but still do a service to your body. And so I have some other visuals that you can see just around the house that you would know for that portioning.
Yeah, this is a good visual here. I came from a family where I had an uncle, cousins that I loved to go stay with for the weekend, except for the dinner hour, because I would put the amount of food on my plate that I thought I could eat. And I had a little bit of everything because I grew up in a household like that too. You ate everything that was prepared. And
Yes.
he would look at me. He had two sons, and he would tell me, "Go back and get some more. That's not enough food." And I could never finish it all, but I knew I had to finish everything on my plate. So,
Yes. Yes.
as adults, we can make better decisions and can be conscious about that with children about the portions and what your plate actually looks like. We
Mhm.
are going to take some more questions shortly, but we're going to go through a little bit more because our time is winding down. But if you have questions, please put them in the chat. So
Mhm.
here you talk about plate size matter. That also goes with portions.
Exactly. Just using a smaller plate. Sometimes that can help. So our eyes are bigger than our stomach.
Mhm,
And there is a connection from our gut to our brain. Like I said
mhm,
earlier, it takes 20 minutes for that
mhm.
signal to get up to the brain to say, you have food, you can stop. That's a lot of time. And sometimes we override that by eating fast. So when we talk about portioning, just using a smaller plate to
Mhm.
put less food on your plate, slowing down and making sure that you're using some of those methods for portioning can really help you.
Okay. That is wonderful. That all makes sense.
Ooh, timing.
Mhm,
This is one of my favorites because I think it's important for people to know a couple of different things. We hear don't eat late at night, and might be a question. Sometimes people
mhm,
say, Michelle, what time should I stop eating? Or I never eat past 5 p.m.
mhm.
Well, I'm going to give you the answer. So the research shows that anywhere between 90 minutes to 3 hours is when you should stop eating before bed. So if someone comes to me and says, Michelle, I stopped eating at 5 p.m., but at 10 p.m. they go to bed, I tell them you are entitled to a snack, a small
Mhm.
snack, but something that around that 8 or 9 o'clock hour, you're not tempted to go to the refrigerator and find your way in there and thinking I shouldn't. And now you're on your way to bed. That's important. The other thing that's important to know is that our insulin, what allows glucose from the food we eat to go into the cell and get it out of the blood, dips down at night. So the one tool that actually helps you to metabolize that food and get it into the cell where you need it for energy is not at its highest function. It is not able to bring that food in and break it down. And
Yeah.
so, if you're bringing in food at nighttime in a large amount of food, this again is the reason why we say we shouldn't be eating that late or have a
Mhm.
small meal because your body doesn't have the tools to metabolize it. And remember, if it doesn't have the tools to metabolize it, it gets overwhelmed and it starts storing. It starts hiding the work it's supposed to do around the midsection, around the hips, around the
Mhm.
arms. And so that's one of the reasons why timing is important. If you are going to eat a meal, try to think, what am I going to do the rest of the day? Am I
Mhm.
going to be able to have a short walk?
Mhm.
Am I going to be able to work some of this food off? If I'm having a bigger meal. Maybe it's earlier in the day where I have the rest of the day to help to allow my body and my metabolism to run it through.
That timing is some of the best news I've heard, because I'm a late owl. I'm up late. And sure enough, around 10 o'clock, I am saying, what? Why? Why should I be eating? I want a snack.
Mhm.
But that explains it all, because I've eaten dinner at a much earlier an hour.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that really does explain it.
Good. Sometimes we think that we're doing ourselves a service by stopping eating so early, but then we trigger ourselves. And so this is a great picture right here that actually shows. So our melatonin needs to go up at nighttime because that's what
Mhm,
helps us to go to sleep. But you can see the red is our insulin, and that's what
mhm.
helps the glucose get into the cells. And so you can see at nighttime, it's starting to go down and it just bottoms out until in the morning where it kicks back up again. And so when we're eating late at nighttime, that's the reason why we're not doing ourselves a service.
That's wonderful. I mean, what about sleep? We talk about sleep and the value of sleep. How does that
Yes.
fit in?
Absolutely. So sometimes it's not about, what you're eating or how much physical activity. It really is about that sleep. The sleep helps to repair and helps everything function. And so sleep is important because it can help to aid in weight loss because when we sleep, we actually are shutting down. We're allowing our body to repair. And if we're not getting enough sleep, and when I say enough, I want to be very clear, there's difference between quality and quantity sleep. Some people can get quality sleep with 5 hours. Some people can be in bed for 8, 9 hours and not have quality sleep. So it's about getting into that REM sleep, that sleep that really does allow your body to repair and rejuvenate for the next day. And I've given you some 5 power nutrients to try to help to improve your sleep. Vitamin D is a part of so many functions, and we think it's just a vitamin. It's a hormone as well. This hormone is crucial in a lot of different functions, liver metabolism, vitamin D, everything. With the sun, magnesium is important. That's for your functions in terms of any type of using your muscles is
Mhm.
important too for your magnesium, your iron, your blood. That's going to determine how much energy you have. Of course, we talk about your melatonin, and then we go back to those omega threes and our omega
Mhm.
threes for those heart healthy. So those 5 power nutrients are things that are going to also help you to sleep a little bit better. And the better you sleep, the less cravings you have as well, which is going to help you save some calories for weight loss and overall health.
Okay, the better you sleep, the less calories. Wow, that should be a tagline I put on my refrigerator.
Yes, if you're sleeping, you're not out snacking.
That's right. That's right. Listen, audience, if you got questions, post them up. We're about 10 minutes out from ending our program, which has just been rich with information. I can't tell you, Miss Michelle Buggs, how phenomenal this information is, and the audience is receiving it well. We're going to kick in with some questions. We have Eric Jensen. What are your thoughts about sparkling water? No sugar, no calorie flavor,
Mhm.
fruit like LaCroix.
Yes.
Mhm.
Eric, you are getting 2 thumbs up from this dietitian. Yes, I think that carbonated water is absolutely fine. I will give one caveat to reason why I may ask somebody to avoid it, but this is a great option because it has flavor, it has a little bit of fizz, because it can get a little tiresome of drinking only water all day long, right? You want a little flavor, you want to spice it up. And I think this is a great way without adding calories. Now, where I would ask someone to avoid it is if someone has had bariatric surgery, I would ask them to reduce that down and not until they're of a certain stage past their post op because of the carbonation. The carbonation, those bubbles get into the stomach, which is a very small stomach after the surgery, and they take up a lot of space and they can add distress. So if you are someone that either has had bariatric surgery, Sometimes I find that people that are even taking some of the new weight loss medications, the GLP-1s, also need to come off of the carbonation because they're not eating as much because they just don't feel as hungry. Or you're someone that has gastroparesis, that is a slowing of the stomach motility, causing your stomach to move a lot slower. That also can create just GI distress where you don't feel well, maybe a lot of burping, maybe a lot of gas, because those bubbles are moving around and they stay in your stomach a lot longer than someone else that may have a regular motility in their stomach. So those are the other reasons. If you don't have any of those, go for it.
All right. We're going to go to a few more questions. Annie Mae Holt's question is coming up. In the low carb diets, meats and vegetables, why do you think the diet okays ice cream?
Ooh, great question. So I think that it allows ice cream because ice cream is a carbohydrate, but it also is a fat. And so it is in that saturated fat category where they allow it, right? There's certain things that you can always bypass the rules, right? Even with Weight Watchers, you count your points. You can manipulate those points for anything you want. And so that's the reason why they allow the ice cream into the lower carb. It has carbohydrates, but it also is a fat that's going to metabolize a little bit slower. Depending on what ice cream you get too, though, right?
Oh, okay. All right. We have the same question from Elaine Hudson and Ann Lindsay. How do you feel about intermittent fasting? Does it help?
Oof, this is a loaded question. What I will say is the thing that people get most frustrated with dietitians is that they say, it depends.
Okay, it depends.
So it depends. I'm so sorry. I wish I could give you a more dialed in answer. What I will say generally is any type of eating pattern. I don't like to call it a diet because remember, we're talking about sustainable long-term things you can do for a lifetime. If it is a eating pattern that you can consistently do over a long period of time, yes. If you're using intermittent fasting just to lose some weight, short-term success, long-term failure. It can, most likely will come back plus some. So we all do a certain amount of time restricted eating because when we go to sleep or in between meals, but the intermittent fasting really, research has shown is not good for females because all the research has been done on males. And so women usually tend not to do as well long-term with intermittent fasting. So those are my generalities about that. But like I said, it does depend.
It does depend. Okay. Our Precious Hicks, a volunteer from Detroit, says, how many ounces of water is sufficient?
Love it. Another great question. Thank you for bringing it back to hydration. So we focus on food, but sometimes we really forget about the hydration piece. And that is so important for our body. Our body is mostly made up of water. So I will try to give you all a very quick math to do that will help you know your specific one. So whatever weight you are in pounds, take whatever you weight are in pounds, you want to divide it by 2.2. Whatever that is going to be about the range that I like for people to have in terms of water or fluid intake. With that being said, at least 60 ounces. It's going to put us somewhere around what they call 6 to 8 cups of water. So that's 8 fluid ounces. So our water bottles that we have, those are 16.9. So every time you drink a water bottle, that's actually 2 cups. So if you can drink somewhere around 3 of those, you're going to meet your daily goal probably. But optimal, we look at your weight and divide it by 2.2 to see.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Water is so important to us all and also helps your skin look good.
Yes, absolutely.
So audience, you have been wonderful. You've been posting up wonderful comments, and I'm sure you've seen some of my comments in the chat that were for Sadie. But it has been a wonderful show. We've covered a lot. We've covered general health, common diets, and the 3 golden rules.
Exactly.
Anything you want to reinforce there of those three areas, Michelle?
No, I'll just say look at what you're currently doing. It's nothing that you have to implement something new, go out to the store and purchase, a whole new set of groceries. Look at what you're currently doing and see which one of these you could fit in at each time. Like I said, the most common one I like to use is a donut. So those of us that are still working, we don't even think about a donut till we get to work and somebody brings it. Well, then practice your rules, portion, pairing, and timing. Okay, well, I shouldn't have a donut first thing in the morning. Maybe I could have, whatever I brought, a protein shake, a boiled egg or something. And then around that 10, 11 o'clock, right before my lunch, I'm going to have a donut. That way you're looking at timing and you still have time to burn it off in your body to metabolize it. The second thing is our portion. Do I have to have a whole donut? Do I have to get the biggest donut? Maybe I could cut it in half. Maybe I can share it with a coworker. And then you talk about pairing. If I'm going to have that donut, I know it's going to hit my bloodstream really quick and get me on a sugar spike where I'm going to be craving more. What can I add to it? Can I get string cheese? Can I have some cottage cheese, a yogurt, a boiled egg, something that's going to bring that down where I can pair my food and combo it so my body can metabolize it better. So just look at the rules, look at what you're doing, and be able to implement them.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have enjoyed this. This has been a wealth of information. I want to thank you for showing up and being so concise. The comments are reflective of that. People are saying that it's a wonderful presentation, that the information is clear. It was really helpful. We hear a lot of noise about diets and eating and not eating and just a lot of noise. And so I really appreciate what you brought to us today. And people can see this again. If you look in the comment section for the audience, there is a link to this presentation so you can capture it and look at it again and again. And also, new to AARP, for those of you who are coming from all over the country, some of you are in the habit of going to our web page looking for events. Well, now we have a new link that is going to combine all of the events for you to be able to see in any state. It is our virtual community center, and there's a link there in the chat for you to just, go to it and put it in your favorite column so you can easily get to it on a regular basis. And you'll see the events posted from around the country. And if you are an AARP member that has given us permission to email you this information, you'll get an email with the listing of these events. So, you can stay in touch with us. We want you to participate in person and virtually, because this kind of information is just so useful to all of us. And it might be useful to somebody else in your family. And this also will be available on demand with the same link if you just want to spontaneously watch it again. We appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. And AARP Michigan is just so happy to have a Black History Month event again this year. We're celebrating 100 years. Thank you for joining us. Take care and stay healthy. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Be well, everybody.
Mm-hmm.